Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on the Erasmus VET Mobility Charter, which we abbreviate to the letters VMC. This webinar is designed to explain what the Charter is, its purpose, and who is eligible to apply. The webinar is designed for newcomers to the VMC. However, there are some new features to the application process in general which may be interesting for those who have already applied before. So I'll just go through our brief agenda today. So to start with, I'll give you a quick explanation of what VMC is, and then we'll look at the key reasons to apply. I'll then run through which organisations can apply, including in particular the selection criteria. This will be followed by the application process and award criteria in a little more detail. We will then run through what is new for 2019, followed by an explanation of how the National Agency manages and assesses your applications, with hints and tips on completing the form and award criteria. The timeline for the whole process and when you can expect to hear the outcome will then be shown. Being awarded the VMC comes with a set of responsibilities that you must comply with if you intend to remain a charter holder, and I will also summarise these aspects. We will then briefly look at ECVET and how this may play an important part of your application, together with some resources about how to find out further information. Key points of the process will then be highlighted, together with some important reminders. Finally, I'll talk about the next steps and how to contact us for support in the run-up to the deadline. The running time of this webinar will be roughly 1 hour. If you want any more information on Erasmus and Brexit, the source of the most up-to-date information is our website, so please take a look at this as well. So then, what exactly is the VMC and what benefits does it bring? Well, the European Commission publishes a call document once a year. For the 2019 document, the call was published last December and has since been on the VET Mobility Charter page of our website. The Charter is a way of rewarding, promoting and accrediting quality in organisations that organise and manage mobilities, and who have a proven track record of delivering multiple high-quality placements for staff and/or learners in VET. It is intended to encourage further development of the European internationalisation strategies, which will be referred to as EIS for the majority of this webinar. The internationalisation of organisation is important because it improves the attractiveness and quality of VET. It brings institutions closer to the labour market and creates networks and qualitative partnerships. Charter applicants are expected to have developed their international approach, for example by networking with organisations in other countries, promoting the learning of foreign languages and looking beyond national VET proposals. And this will continue as they are awarded the Charter. The Charter is also meant to improve the quality of VET placements, as well as embed high-quality mobility activities into curricula. So what are the top 5 reasons to apply for the VMC? The Charter will be awarded until the end of the programme, which is 2020. The 2019 call document also mentions prolongation of the Charter after 2020 in the subsequent programme, which is yet to be confirmed. And this is the implication that the Charter will continue into the next generation of programmes. Once the Charter has been awarded, organisations can submit simplified, dedicated application forms under Key Action 1 VET from the subsequent call of being awarded the Charter instead of a full application. For these Key Action 1 applications, there is no qualitative assessment because the quality of an applicant's project has already been assessed within the VET Charter application process. Secondly, funding is ring-fenced for VMC holders out of the overall VET budget. However, you should remember that holding the Charter does not mean you will be automatically awarded funding for the following calls. And please note that it's not obligatory, VMC is not obligatory for participation under Key Action 1 VET. Therefore, if some applicants aren't successful in the Charter, they can still apply for Key Action 1 VET funding in the usual way. Being a Charter holder means that your organisation or your UK national consortium are deemed as high-quality providers of Key Action 1 VET projects, which you can use as a selling point. The European Commission will make Charter holders more visible to companies in Europe looking for trainees by publishing your organisation's information, your organisation's name, names of your UK national consortium if applicable, your organisation website and the sectors that you work with, which may result in you building a stronger network. Applying for the VMC means you will commit to a 5-year plan to increase and/or expand mobility activity, thus delivering mobilities on a larger scale to create more of an impact. So to reiterate, it's important to note that those who are awarded the Charter this year will be able to use the modified application process going forward. The certificate will be issued for the duration of the Erasmus VET programme, subject to satisfactory performance. And finally, at the midterm of the Charter, at the end of the last mobility contract, Charter holders will be asked to report on the development of their European internationalisation strategy and the impact of their Charter. So who can apply? Let's consider the main eligibility and selection criteria. Any public or private organisation active in the field of VET can apply for the Charter as long as they can meet the following eligibility criteria. Applicants must be established in one of the Erasmus programme countries, so if you're applying to the UK National Agency, your organisation must be based in the UK. Additional eligibility criteria which you must consider are fully detailed on 2 and 3 of the core document published by the European Commission. This link to this will be also found in the chat box in the handout and in the handout to this webinar. In addition, there are 2 very important selection criteria. Firstly, applicants must have completed at least 3 VET mobility projects. This can be under the Lifelong Learning Programme as a Leonardo Mobility project, or under the Erasmus Plus programme as a Key Action 1 VET project. You can apply to become a charter holder whether or not your organisation is a previous applicant for funding for Erasmus Plus programme, as long as you have completed 3 Leonardo Mobility projects. However, it's strongly recommended that you have at least 1 successful application under Erasmus Plus before attempting to apply for the Charter. If you have not yet had a successful Erasmus Plus project, you will need to ensure that your application highlights the relevance of your previous projects to the Erasmus Plus programme and how that will translate. Secondly, the average budget spend across the last 3 completed projects must total at least 80%. So here we mean that the last 3 completed projects, not any 3 projects that you completed, including any terminated projects. Completed projects are those where a final report has been submitted and the final payment raised. Finally, regarding the consortium applications, the eligibility rules of the 3 VET mobility projects and the minimum average spend of 80% of the budget applies to the consortium as a whole or each organisation which is a member of the consortium. The VET Mobility Charter awarded to a consortium is only valid for the exact same consortium and is not valid for the use of an individual partner. So if you apply as a consortium, any future applications made as a VMC holder must be made with the same UK national consortium. Full details about the selection criteria on page 4 of the core document. It's your responsibility to read the core document carefully and make sure you comply to the criteria before applying. So if awarded the Charter, what are your responsibilities? You will hold the Charter for the lifetime of the Erasmus Plus programme and subject to satisfactory monitoring outcomes carried out by the national agency and potentially going forward into subsequent programmes. You should ensure that there are strong committed partnerships in place and you will be responsible for project implementation and should ensure that placement and content activities are relevant and objectives are clearly defined. Appropriate participant selection, preparation, support and contractual systems must be in place and in line with those detailed in your application. You would also need to conduct regular monitoring and evaluation to assess the quality of mobilities and use the results to adjust and further improve consequent placements and projects. Your organisation will be expected to develop and use effective dissemination strategies for the results of your mobility activities. Project progress will be reported to the national agency, in addition at the midpoint to your organisation's charter period and at the end. So now moving on to some key reminders for 2019. There have been no major changes to the application form or to the core document for 2019, and there's been no changes to the question if you have applied in previous years. As you are probably already aware, if you submitted an application under Key Action 1 or Key Action 2 or applied last year, the application form is now completed online, but we'll go through more detail of how the application form is completed later. If you experience any technical issues with the application form, please contact us immediately via the helpline and we'll do our best to resolve any issues. For this reason, we ask you to submit in advance of the deadline, as this year we have seen errors mainly being experienced at the submission stage. We have fed this back to the European Commission's IT development team. However, there is never a guarantee that new errors won't arise. Don't risk missing out on submitting your application due to technical malfunction. And thirdly, make sure you read the guidance published by the European Commission, which is available on our website. These documents include a guide on internationalisation strategies, VET quality commitment, and guidance on completing the application form. Mobility activities under Erasmus Pro continue to be a priority in 2019. As you may already be aware, Erasmus Pro is a policy initiative that promotes long-term mobility in VET in providers or companies abroad for a duration of 3 to 12 months, or from 90 days to 366 days, including travel days. It's worth mentioning that as you may wish to include these activities in your European internationalisation strategy, under the 2018 and 2019 calls, applications containing Erasmus Pro activities, whether from a charter holder or not, are automatically prioritised. So do consider including Erasmus Pro activities if they are a realistic prospect for your projects. Also, if you include Erasmus Pro activities, you are able to undertake advanced planning visits, which allow you to meet your host partner face-to-face to prepare for the mobility together in order to facilitate interinstitutional cooperation, better prepare mobilities, and ensure their high quality. Again, this should be a consideration when writing your application. The incorporation of Erasmus Program activities will also affect how you explain how you'll manage and prepare for different types of mobilities, short-term versus long-term, and how you increase the mobility activity and ensure mobilities continue to be of a high quality going forward. I'll now pass over to my colleague Daniela, who will talk you through the application process for 2019.
Hello. We will now provide an overview of the application process, then show you the application web form. The process of applying begins with the completion and submission of a dedicated 2019 VET Mobility Charter application e-form. As mentioned earlier, the application form is a web form that must be completed online. The European Commission have already released the form, and it is available on the Erasmus Plus application website. The link to the application can also be found on the VMC page of our website. As part of your application, you will need to include your organization's European internationalization strategy, which will be a separate document that you will attach to the web form. We recommend that you follow the guidance contained in our Guide for Applicants, which has been released, and the 2019 updated version can be found on the VMC page of our website. It gives step-by-step instructions about how to complete the web form and the checks you should make before submitting it, with useful hints and tips on what information to include. The deadline for submission to the UK National Agency is on or before 11 AM UK time on the 16th of May 2019. Then there will be an assessment and evaluation period concluding in September 2019. You will be notified of the assessment outcome and whether or not you have been awarded the Charter by the end of September 2019. If awarded the Charter, you will be able to apply in the simplified way described earlier from the 2020 Key Action 1 VET call onwards. If you are unsuccessful in your Charter application, you can, of course, still submit a Key Action 1 VET application in the usual way and would be able to apply again for the Charter in 2020. All right. There are 11 sections to complete, as you can see from the content screenshot on this slide. Whilst most of the sections are straightforward to complete, there are 2 sections of the VMC application form which are very different to the usual Key Action 1 application form, and we're going to spend a little more time on them. These are section 3 and 4, and they have often been the weakest sections in previous call years, so further guidance will be given here. So now we'll go through the sections of the application form. Firstly, let me show you how to access the form. The information I will show you is also explained in our Guide for Applicants and in the guidance provided by the European Commission, the link for which is available at the bottom of the contents screen of the application form, as shown in the screenshot above, where it says Guidelines. Now you can go to your we go to your EU login, insert your login details, Right, and then you should click on the VMC form, which will bring you to the first page. Right, as you can see, each section of the application form is displayed in the menu on the left-hand side. Once all of the mandatory fields in a given section have been completed correctly, the section will be marked with a green tick icon. If there is any information missing in a section, or if not all the application rules have been respected, the section will be marked with a red exclamation triangle icon. Most individual questions will be marked in the same way to make it easy to identify and fix any issues. Now, mandatory fields are marked with a red stripe on the left-hand side, and you will need to complete all of them in order to be able to submit the form. As you can see, in the first section of the form, you must select the British UK National Agency. This is the British Council in partnership with the Chorus at the bottom of the drop-down menu, and you must also provide the language used to fill out the form, which in this case should always be English when submitting the form to the UK National Agency. As you can see, individual mandatory fields that have been completed will be marked with the green line. Throughout the form, you can acquire new information about particular questions by positioning your mouse pointer over the question mark sign. Some sections of the application form, such as the participating organization sections, have a menu button, which is a box with 3 black bars in it, that you have to click to add further information on the section. Now we will be moving into the participating organization sections by clicking on the title on the left here. Here are some hints and tips. Please note that once you have selected yes to applying on behalf of a consortium, there are extra questions specific to being in a consortium and running the project that will appear throughout the form that you may not see here today. You can see here that you need to add a contact person and a legal representative as associated persons. To do this, you should click on the button with 3 horizontal lines and select Person's Details. If you wish to add more contacts to the project from the application organization, you can select Add Associated Person. This is recommended so that your organization can remain in contact with the UK National Agency in cases where the preferred contact person is absent or unavailable. Now, the web form will automatically save your content every 2 seconds. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can see when it was last saved. Therefore, you can log out and come back to the form if you need to complete it in more than 1 sitting. So that's a quick overview of what the web form looks like. Let us move on to the more difficult parts of the form where we have found applicants need more guidance. Again, please do read our guide for applicants, which provides useful hints and tips based on feedback from our external assessors from the 2018 call year applications. Section 3 is all about your organization's internationalization strategy. When you get to it, it looks really easy to complete because it is simply asking you to attach your organization's EIS document. You will need to include your organization's EIS as an annex to your application, and you will be encouraged to attach this document under the relevant part of the form, as you can on the screenshot here. Right. If you do not already have an EIS, you will need to create one that is relevant to your VET mobility projects and to your organization's internationalization plans for the future. If your organization already has a strategy, you will need to ensure it has relevance to VET projects and the internationalization of VET activities, or that it contains a sub-strategy reflecting Erasmus Plus and VET mobility. To be relevant to the VET Mobility Charter, your organization's internationalization strategy should be focused on European mobility activities. The European internationalization strategy is defined as a document giving direction to the work of VET organizations in planning, developing and delivering sustainable long-term internationalization activities, including transnational mobility. An EIS should specifically show how internationalization will build and add value to the organizational strategy. The EIS should be clearly and logically structured, with an action plan included, and should give measurable, time-limited indicators, as well as proposed numbers of placements for staff and learners. You should be able to evidence that there is policy-level support within the organization for the strategy. I'll take care with key details and include information about current partners and countries the organization works with. It is also important to inform us about any prospective new partners and countries and why you want to work with them. If applicable, let us know if you are planning any reciprocal exchanges with these partners. Most importantly, ensure you highlight the added value and benefit that working transnationally does and will bring to your organization. If applying as a consortium, each organization will need to submit their EIS with the application. We cannot stress enough the importance of ensuring that you read all of the available guidance on this section. This section tends to be quite a weak area for many of the applications we have received in the past. Now, the assessors in the 2017 and 2018 calls have provided some specific hints and tips on the European internationalization strategy. The feedback suggests that VET Charter applicants should strive to describe how their organization's track record of implementing mobilities reflect the nature of the future developments planned, and suggested that this could be supported by an analysis of past achievements, which should include numbers, qualifications, aims achieved, and not least progression to further education or employment achieved by participants. Feedback included recommendations that specific examples of what the needs of employers and trainees are should be given to clearly explain the EIS and how the proposed activities will meet these needs. Further to that, they recommended that the application demonstrates your EIS has a policy-level support in your organization. They also suggested that you should ensure that all of your objectives are SMART, that is, they are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. For example, any significant increases in mobility numbers year upon year are explained, plans are sustainable. Also, a clear action plan which includes SMART objectives from 2019 onwards to enable assessors to understand how, when the strategy will be implemented and who by. If planning to form new partnerships within other program countries, clearly explain why the specific countries or partners or department or sectors targeted have been chosen, what the added value of their involvement in the strategy is, and how new partners and mobility hosts will be identified, and what the milestones will be in achieving this. Identify current and future transnational partners, explaining their roles and responsibility with the use of case studies. And also clearly describe the content of placements and give some concrete examples of activities that would be offered. The next section we will look at is past activities, as this is one area where previous applicants struggled in previous call years. In section 4, you will need to detail the relevance of your organization's experience in delivering transnational VET mobility in relation to the Erasmus Plus objectives of the call. You will also need to demonstrate an ability to deliver high-quality projects. You should assume that assessors know nothing about your previous projects, as assessors only assess what is written within your application. You should therefore ensure that all your previous projects and achievements are fully documented and included. This is also the section where you need to provide information of the relevant contract numbers and titles of the last 3 VET mobility projects that you completed under the lifelong learning or Erasmus Plus programs, as this is what makes you eligible for the Charter. Single applicants should include their last 3 projects. Consortium applicants should give the project details of each member of the consortium if you have not completed 3 previous mobilities together. Finally, in this section, you need to describe the profile of the participants you have involved and whether they were VET trainees or apprentices, recent graduates or staff. You should, if relevant, give the percentage of the learner population at your organization that undertake mobilities. It is also possible to use this section to describe any other types of mobility activities that your organization has had experience in, mainly to reinforce evidence of your organization's capacity to manage projects. You should show that your project activities are consistent with your overall objectives and enable the participants to reach their required learning outcomes. Some useful feedback given by an assessor last year was that if the applicant organization has not delivered any mobility projects in recent years, an explanation of the gap in activities should be given. Now, sections 5 to 8 are similar to the standard Key Action 1 VET application forms. These sections require an explanation of how you intend to manage the mobility activities that you intend to carry out in future. This is a vital aspect of the application, given that quality in mobility can only be achieved in the right framework of quality management. It is also necessary to show how you manage the full cycle of mobility from preparation to follow-up. This means committing to a de facto quality commitment. Without it, your organization cannot receive the Charter. You need to explain how you manage mobility within your organization and detail how the important practical arrangements for organizing travel, subsistence, social security, insurance, etc. are made. If you have a high demand for mobility, you'll need to show a clear and transparent process for participant selection, including all the different stages and the criteria used to make the final decision. You also need to confirm whether you use mobility for the most able learners, those with learning difficulties, or those with fewer opportunities, if appropriate. Please include the type of participants you envisage sending and remember that their preparation is of paramount importance if quality mobility activities are to be achieved. You should also explain your preparation process, whether this is sector-specific, task-related, linguistic, intercultural, psychological, and so on. You should also explain how management, preparation, monitoring, and support may be specialized depending on the type of learners, or according to whether the mobility duration is a short or it is an Erasmus Pro long-term mobility lasting 3 to 12 months. You should also include details about what plans you have in place to enable the inclusion of participants who face barriers to their involvement, whether for socio-economic reasons or because of special needs or other factors. In addition, information concerning monitoring, support and mentoring activities should be shown here, along with any plans to include accompanying persons. You should specify what methods will be used to enable the recognition of learning outcomes. You should also include here your organization's plans with regards to host organization selection and how agreements are made with them. It is also advisable to specify contingency plans in the event of staff or organizational changes which occur during the lifetime of your VMC. Finally, you should detail the key achievements of your previous projects, their impact, how you disseminated the results, and what evaluation procedures you have in place to assess whether objectives have been met, and what steps have been taken to follow participants' achievements following inclusion in the mobility. Please also think about how you will ensure quality improvements based upon evaluation activities. Remember, we need to see applications of an excellent quality in order for the national agency to be confident that you will be able to carry out strong projects with high-quality mobilities for participants throughout the Erasmus Plus program. Please therefore take all guidance into account while planning and completing your application. If you are considering implementing Erasmus Pro in future call years, then in sections 5 to 8 of the form, you should highlight how you plan to manage the different needs of both long-term and short-term mobilities. This advice also applies if different types of participants are to be involved, for example, young learners as opposed to 16-year-olds, or participants with special needs or with fewer opportunities. As with Key Action 1 VET Mobility applications, there are 3 award criteria which can achieve a maximum score of either 30 or 40. Here we have the specific award criteria for the VMC. The first criterion is the relevance of previous transnational VET mobility experience related to the objectives of the call, and it can be awarded a maximum score of 30. The second criterion is about the relevance of the EIS, specifically evidence of your strategy, developments and commitment to transnational VET mobility, and it can receive up to 40 points. The third criterion is about organizational issues and quality management, and this can receive a maximum score of 30. To be considered for the Charter, applications must score at least 70 points overall. In addition, they must score at least half of the maximum points in each of the award criteria shown on this slide. Full details of what assessors will look out for under each award criterion are on pages 5 and 6 of the call document. Right, now I'll give you a basic timeline of the application, assessment and selection process. 2019 VET Mobility Charter applications have to be submitted to the UK National Agency on or before 11 AM UK time on the 16th of May 2019. We will then complete our logging in procedures and all eligibility checks prior to commencing a qualitative assessment. Only those applications that pass these initial steps will be subject to assessment. This process will be tough and thus follow strict guidelines because it is imperative that a national agency is completely confident about an organization's ability to manage and deliver high-quality projects. All applicants will be notified of the outcome of their application by the end of September 2019. I would now like to talk briefly about ECVET. ECVET is a technical framework to facilitate the transfer, recognition and accumulation of assessed learning outcomes with a view to achieving a qualification. It is designed to facilitate lifelong learning and to support the mobility of European citizens. The learning outcomes approach ensures a better understanding and comparability of qualifications and learning achievements across countries, institutions within a country, or across qualifications. As a potential charter holder, you would be expected to be already implementing some aspects of ECVET and should think about ways to make this part of your EIS where possible. For example, you should already be using memorandums of understanding with partners and learning agreements for mobility participants, which will detail how learning will be validated and recognized, and a thorough evaluation of the project management, learning outcomes, and identification of any added value gained. Using ECVET will benefit both the learners and your organization. For learners, it provides acknowledgement and recognition of achieved learning outcomes. These could be knowledge, skills, competence, giving value to all learning experiences. It also offers improved employability. For VET organizations, ECVET offers capacity building for staff, insight into different teaching delivery and assessment techniques in other European countries, and improved profile and greater visibility through participation in European VET partnerships. As a reminder, the key documents required to implement ECVET include the Memorandum of Understanding, learner agreements, personal transcripts of learning outcomes achieved. This slide provides details of the 4 ECVET national coordination points in the UK and refers to the team of national ECVET experts managed by ECORIS, with contact details so you can request further details and support. So have a think about whether you have considered ECVET as part of your VMC application. The information on this slide contains further resources and can also be found on the handout to this webinar for future reference. We have also provided links to 2 recent webinars done by UK ECVET experts on how to incorporate ECVET into your VET mobility projects. Now, before we conclude, here are some key points for you to remember. First and foremost, ensure you're eligible to apply in this round. As a reminder, to be eligible, you must be a UK-based public or private entity who has had at least 3 successful VET mobility projects previously, with an average budget spend of 80% across those projects. If you're unsure about this, please contact your project officer at the national agency, but remember that it is your responsibility to calculate average spend correctly and to be happy you comply with the eligibility and selection criteria. Your organization must have a high-quality European internationalization strategy. Also, ensure you complete the correct application form, the link to which is available on our website. Use the national agency's own guidance when completing it, and if you have applied before, don't forget to review the feedback you have received from us, because this will include key areas of improvement which will improve your chances of submitting a good quality application. With the web e-form, you don't need to worry about saving frequently, as the e-form saves automatically every 2 seconds. However, please make sure to open only one tab and PDF the application form to make sure no information is lost. Provide relevant answers to the questions in the application, but remember that there is a character limit on many of the sections. You can see the limit by hovering your mouse over the answer boxes. It's a good idea to get someone else to proofread your application and annexes, perhaps against the published award criteria. When completing the application form, please assume that the assessor knows nothing about your organization and the projects you have completed. Include all core and relevant information in the form or attach as annexes, because if you include links to websites or other documentation, the assessor may not have the time to read it. Please leave enough time for completing and submitting your application before the deadline of the 11 AM UK time on the 16th of May 2019. Unfortunately, any applications received after this deadline will automatically be rejected with no exceptions. So to conclude, I'd like to remind you of the support the UK National Agency will be offering in the run-up to the 16th of May deadline. A recording of this webinar will be sent to you in the next couple of working days. After the webinar, you will be redirected to a feedback form. Please do fill this out, as we aim to continuously improve these webinars. I have taken previous feedback on board when creating the webinars for this round. The application form and detailed guide for applicants on how to fill out and submit the application form are available on our Erasmus Plus website on the VMC page. As you know, our website can be found at www.erasmusplus.org.uk, and besides all sorts of information about the program as a whole, there is a specific information concerning VMC available too. We also have a helpline where our team is available to answer your questions about your VMC application. Thank you all for your attention and participation during this webinar. We hope you found the information useful. Here are our contact details for further support. We'll be around for a few more minutes to answer any final questions, and after this, please contact us via the email address on the the number on this screen. If there are any questions you haven't managed to answer during the session today, we will get back to you by email afterwards. So thank you again for your attention, and on behalf of my colleague Amy and myself, we wish you the best of luck with your charter application.